Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing good. My name is Thanos and on this channel I am going to talk about my favorite genre, crimes. So if you are a fan of it, hit a like and subscribe, it really helps me out. And with that being said, let's move on to our today's case. But before that, let me just warn you that for the people that are sensitive, I am going to talk about people being buried alive, so viewer discretion is advised. Tiffany Cole was born on December the 3rd, 1981 in Charleston, South Carolina. Her parents, Charlie and David Duncan, divorced when she was at a very young age and unfortunately she would go back and forth living with each parent for a specific amount of time, not being able to enjoy childhood as a normal child. She would take care of her younger sister while living with her mother, but things got worse when Tiffany's mother met her stepfather, a very violent and abusive person, towards her younger sister, but it's not clear if he was also being abusive towards Tiffany. But either way, I would say that even witnessing abuse can have a dramatic impact on you, and on top of that, she also witnessed a very sick animal abuse when her stepfather threw a puppy against the wall and broke its neck. Can you imagine just being a kid, feeling totally helpless and not being able to do anything? As she was growing up, she was trying to live as normally as she could. She was a Girl Scout, a cheerleader, and she had pretty good grades at school. At some point, at the age of 16, her father started sexually abusing her, which resulted to her leaving the house and crashing on different places, but there is not a lot of information about this period. The sad thing is that Tiffany had actually told her mother about the abuse, but she didn't believe her. I mean, this should have been devastating for her. Seeking help from your own mother, from the person you fully trust, and receiving nothing in return. I mean, how couldn't she believe her own child? While away from home, she developed toxic relationships and got mixed with the wrong crowd, we could say, because she started abusing alcohol and drugs to cope with the situation, as she later stated. After some time, she returned back home to her mother, and because karma is a bitch, her father had developed terminal cancer, so he was living with them and somehow they took care of him after his heinous acts. Tiffany's father was friends with a neighbor couple, Carol Sumner and James Reynolds, so as the time went by, Tiffany started coming closer to them. The couple was of course aware of Tiffany's father's situation, so they were there for her, supporting her and treating her as their own child. Now I want to first give you some inside information about this case and this couple so that you will fully understand why this case has been considered by many people, including myself, as one of the most horrendous cases that has ever existed. Anyway, Carol and Reggie were together at their teenage years, but after high school they split up, and later on in their life, James joined the Navy, got married, and after some time he divorced. As for Carol, she also got married and had kids with a very abusive husband, which she later also divorced. But this is where Carol's case gets even darker. After her divorce, her ex-husband pulled out a gun, shot Carol several times, drove away from the crime scene, and after that he turned the gun on himself and pulled the trigger. Now, Carol somehow did manage to survive after giving a blood transfusion to save her life, but here comes a very cruel, evil twist about this case, guys. The blood transfusion that was given to Carol to save her life was actually infected with hepatitis, which of course infected Carol and was later progressed to liver cancer. I mean, can you imagine the trauma that this woman had been through? Even Carol had stated that she felt that it was if as her ex-husband was still trying to kill her, even though he was dead, clearly showing extreme symptoms of PTSD. Carol, after recovering mentally and physically, she found a job at a call center which contributed to getting back with James. And that is why, because when James gave a call to the call center, Carol was the one that answered the phone, so after they found out what was going on, they arranged on a date. Getting back together after 40 years, it is as if they were meant to be for each other. They got married pretty quickly and they got settled next to the house to Tiffany's father's house. So these two individuals, after having gone through all of this, you could say that they were very humble, caregiving, and helping not just with Tiffany but with everyone in general. Despite the fact that Carol was very close to her daughter Dronda, who was also living in Charleston, by talking to her on the phone every day, the couple decided to move to Jacksonville, Florida in February 2005 after being married for 4 years. Now I have read that the reason behind the moving was due to the health problems, but it is not clear why or if Florida was the best suited location for the couple. Before they moved to Florida, they gave their car to Tiffany and arranged a monthly payment because they fully trusted her. On May the same year, Tiffany met Michael James Jackson, not a singer, at a hotel and they quickly started dating. Michael, after some time, he mentioned to Tiffany that he would go visit a friend of his in Florida, Alan Wade, the third suspect of this case. Immediately when Michael invited her, she mentioned that they could stay at the couple's house because Tiffany was always welcome there. And of course, the kind hearted couple opened their door to them, fully trusting them, but little did they know that this would be a gravely mistake. At first, James showed his coin collection to Tiffany and Michael, and at the beginning they were intrigued, but as the conversations quickly shifted towards the profit the couple had made overselling their house back in Charleston, which was actually 100k, Michael started thinking about robbing the couple. The same evening he shared his sick plan with Tiffany and she actually agreed with it, guys. I mean, how evil could you be to plan to rob the people that are accommodating and loving you as their own child? This is very sick. Michael took notes from the things that he wanted to steal from the house, and as it couldn't get any worse, after their stay, he changed his mind and he wanted to kill the couple. And the thing is that when he told Tiffany about that, she also fully agreed with him. And later on, they recruited two more members for the robbery to have some help. And these two members were Alan Wade and Bruce Nixon. Side note here, guys, Bruce Nixon, at the beginning, he didn't know anything about the murder. He just thought that they were going to rob the place. But later on, he found out because they started digging out a grave in Georgia inside the forest 2 days prior to the robbery. At the 8th of July, the group rented out a sports car, drove to Florida to the couple's house, and their plan was at first for Bruce and Alan to go to pretend that their car had broken down and their cell phones weren't working to be able to use the couple's phone. So they went to the house, they knocked on the door while the couple inside were cooking their evening meal. Carol opened the door, started discussing with them, and because they were very trusting, of course, they let them inside. But after they came into the house, they pulled out a toy gun which looked very real and started threatening them by telling them that even if they didn't fully cooperate with them, they would get killed. Being threatened, the couple of course were very afraid and vulnerable, so they did whatever they told them to do without any hesitation. Of course, the couple probably thought that if they would do everything they told them to, they would not get hurt, but unfortunately, this was not the case. There were duct tape on the hands, legs, eyes, and mouth. Michael entered the house and started collecting everything that his list contained. After he was done, they took the couple to the garage, they put them in the boot of their own car. Alan and Bruce drove away with the couple, and Michael did the same with Tiffany. They met at the grave in Georgia, and until this moment, I cannot imagine how terrified this couple should have been, because when they were inside the truck, they were holding hands and they were praying together. Imagine the horror and terror, guys, here. How devastated were they when they witnessed who was behind all of this. Before throwing them into the grave, Michael acquired their PIN numbers for their bank accounts, and the following was truly horrific because it actually took some time for the group to be able to bury the couple alive. These senseless individuals kept pouring out dirt on them to the point where Carol and Reggie couldn't any longer breathe normally. They were fully covered, and after some time they suffocated. After that, the group ditched the couple's car and drove back to Summers' home, where they continued stealing various items. Later, they withdrew big amounts of money from the ATM, they rented out a limo, and as if nothing had happened, they started celebrating, partying, and drinking champagne. They even took pictures after the murder. Guys, like, how senseless could you be to just do something like that? Carol's daughter Rhonda got worried after she couldn't reach her mother, so she paid a visit to the house. And what she noticed when she got there was the half cooked dinner, medication lying, the dog alone by itself, the state of the house due to the robbery, and of course the missing car. She immediately called the police, and when the police got there, they tracked down the abandoned car, and that's where things got pretty serious. The police put out a missing persons reports at the 12th of July, the same day when the sheriff's office received a phone call from Michael pretending to be James Reynolds, saying that the couple was on a trip and that they knew about their car being stolen from a neighbor. The police got suspicions of him and asked to speak to Carol, and that's where Tiffany came on the line.
Is this Carol?
Yes, sir, it is.
You doing all right?
Just really tired.
I understand. I understand that you may have some health problems.
Cancer
Cancer?
and liver.
So the police didn't buy the whole story, so just to be sure, they played the phone call to Rhonda, and after she explained to them that these people were imposters, an extensive investigation was launched. The police took a look at the phone records of the number which called them. They checked on the cameras from the ATMs that the group withdrew money from, so they were able to spot the plate of the rented car, and after they called the rental company number found on the phone records, they traced it back to Tiffany. They tracked the sports car with the company's help, and later they arrested Tiffany, Michael, and Alan at a motel in South Carolina. The incriminating evidence were a lot, and during the interrogation, Tiffany mentioned the fourth member, Bruce Nixon. Bruce was interrogated and he was full cooperative by telling them that the initial plan was just to rob the couple, but during the robbery, Michael changed his mind and he wanted to kill the couple, and later on he even took them to the grave in Georgia. The police couldn't believe in their eyes. They were shocked and disgusted with the case, and later on some police officers stated that this was the worst case that they had ever encountered in their police careers. In October 2005, the trial began, and Tiffany claimed that she didn't know anything about the murder, and she of course blamed everything on Michael. Now, as for Bruce, he pleaded guilty for second-degree murder. He showed remorse and even apologized to the family, so he received 45 years behind bars. As for the others, they were sentenced to first-degree murder and were given the death sentence. Tiffany was one of the youngest women put on death row in the United States this year, and the other two, their death sentences changed to life in prison with no parole because of a ruling supporting an anonymous verdict to reach the death penalty. In their case, their votes for the death penalty initially were 9-3 for Tiffany, 8-4 for Michael, and 11-1 for Alan. In August 2023, Michael was resentenced to death, and as for Alan, he somehow conceived a baby with a woman. I mean, what was this woman thinking about? I mean, I cannot understand people nowadays, guys. What are they thinking doing this kind of things? Tell me your opinion on the comments below. I will see you on the next video. Until then, take care.